Thank you for joining me today. My friend, bless her, found these two valance boards in her attic recently and she dropped them round to me and she'd like them recovered. So let's get on with it. The first thing is to undo all of this. I'm going to pull that out and then just to remove all of this. If I can, I'm going to reuse the lining. So I've looked at this to find out how it's put together, and it is glued. I always like finding these things because there's always another way of doing something. Personally, I wouldn't glue it. The other thing is, this is just one piece of fabric with the piping in between. That I can understand, but gluing it, I don't. But each to their own. There's no right way or wrong way. It's the same with the dust cloth at the top. They did this with it. This is the fabric I'm using. It's a velvet. It has a stripe on it. Stripes usually go up and down, but always check with velvet because sometimes it's a railroaded or tram lined. It just means that the pile of the velvet would go this way instead of up and down. In this case, the stripes do go up and down. That's down and that's up. I can feel it quite nicely. Up is really rough, down is smooth. Acrossways it feels similar. I do have to add to either end because it's not quite wide enough. So I'm going to decide how long I want to make these cuts and do that first. Now the longest length is from here. I'm going to go at least 1.5 inches over the top to the bottom, which is 21. So if I cut 3 pieces at 23 inches, that should do that quite nicely. I'll probably give only 1/4 inch, which is there, down to here, right at the back of that board underneath, which takes it to 8. I'm going to cut them to 9 inches. So long as I've got at least 1/4 inch overlap, that'll be fine. Because the bottom is a little bit uppy downy, I'm going to straighten the bottom out. Just follow the weave. It's an obvious weave on the back of a velvet usually. I'll straighten that out all the way down and then I'll make my measurements from there. This also helps when I'm placing it to make sure that everything is even. My 22 mark is there, which is on the edge of the fabric, and I'm just going to cut towards the top here like that, and because I can see the weave, I'm just going to cut straight across. If you can't see the weave, just move your ruler along and aim towards the top of the marking all the way across. It's up to you. Sometimes you're going to have to do it that way, sometimes you don't. Now this fabric has a fault in it. It's quite a big fault actually. So I'm going to have to cut round there, which fortunately is fine. That's my 22 mark there. I think what I'll do is I'll just cut from here up for my third 22 before I sew anything. This is the down and there's the fault. This is down and there is another fault here. It's just a little one. So I'm going to have to make sure that I cover this fault. I'll make sure there's no more faults on the sides of this. It's a shame when there's faults, but as long as there's nothing in the middle of the fabric, we'll be fine. This is the one that I was going to cut into strips. I'll start at the other end and cut the strips that I need for each side of the valance boards. I've put the centerpiece on. The pile goes down like this. Well, here is the piece I'm going to put on the side. That is the pile going down. I'm going to put that right on the edge at the top. I'm going to run that along the outside of the pile all the way down, forward and back, and then keeping that on the edge like that, I'm going to sew all the way to the bottom. It's a narrow hem, but it's really not going to be a problem. Just make sure that the velvet stays as close to that edge as possible, otherwise you're going to get a wonky line. Velvet walks. Chenille can walk as well if you're doing it with chenille. If you go down with the pile, you shouldn't have any problem. It's if you could go against the pile, you have a problem. That should cover this little gap there. Otherwise, I would have to take it further in, but I should be fine. I have to be a little bit cautious because there are lines going up and down. Now, it has pushed this down, but I might just cut it slightly differently on one of these widths than the other, so that's fine. When you get to the bottom, forward and back. I'm going to check that. That's pretty good. I think once I've ironed that flat, it'll be fine. The lines look like they're going up and down. They're going to wobble a little bit. As I say, velvet does walk when you're sewing it. So just do the best you can. The gap in the pile has been covered as well. Now the other side. Now on this side, I'm going to put the pile so it goes down. I'm going to cut the selvage back so I can see where the pile is all the way down because it's going to be flipped. Again, I'm going to line the side together like that. I'm going from the top of the pile down, forward and back, and then all the way down, just keeping that as straight as I can. When I get to the other end, I will do forward and back and finish. I need some lengths of piping. I'm going to cut them 1.5 like I usually do. I'm hoping to get everything that I need out of this scrap and the other scrap. What I did was folded the fabric over at 45 degrees to get the initial cut, and then I'm just going to cut this up as much as I can. I'll keep the longest ones and try to centre them so there's no join right in the centre of the valance. The pile goes that way. I'm just going to put all of these in line so everything goes in the right direction. Shorten the stitch a little bit. If you put this at right angles, everything will line up for you. And just sew across. And then fold that back and put the next one on. I've got all of my pieces lined up so I don't have to worry about which direction it's going in. I've just trimmed back the first one and separated it from the next one. I'm going to put it about 1 inch in from the end, roll that round so it's nice and even, keep the raw edges together. As I sew down, the pile goes that way, so technically it's coming down the way I'm going. I've got it on the longest stitch and I'm going to sew all the way down. As I get to the seam, I'm going to make sure the seam is wide open, push that across, make sure that the piping is well and truly into that fold, and sew over and on down, cutting these back as I go. I've equalised where the joins are on the back side, and I'm just going to draw a pencil line all the way down like that. It has kind of marked the velvet on this side. If I rub it sideways, it will go. I'm going to cut about 1 inch away from that line on the underside all the way around like that, because I need to staple this into position, but I also need the fabric to give me a little bit of give as I do so. If it's a little bit bigger, it won't matter too much as I staple it into place. And I'm going to use this as the template for the second one. This has a pile, so I have to make sure that it's going the right way. This is the bottom, this is the bottom. I know that the seam has to go right on this edge. I need to make sure that this comes over at least a little way on the side, which gives me a point of reference for here. It just needs to come over 1 inch, so I'm going to put my first staple here, pull it slightly, and then I'm going to make sure that the other side is exactly the same. I'll get the other side in and then I'll start working on these. What I've done across the bottom is brought it over 1/2 inch because I didn't need it to be a full inch. Then I pulled all of the fabric up so it's even across the top. The reason I did that is because there's a curve and I want the curvature to go in nicely. What I'm going to do here is just cut a little ways out following the curve because I want to make sure that I have enough to fold over the top. I might need to put some clips in. Start in the middle. I'm going to pull it down against the top and up. I'm not pulling it across, I'm just pulling it down and up because I don't want it twisting. Down and up till it's all in place. And it should, at the corner here, just go into place without any problem at all. Now I'll do the other side. Now I'm going to bring this across to the front and make sure that it at least covers the top here. I'm going to follow the stripes round and I'm going to make sure that this stripe here follows the inside of that piece of wood all the way up to the top. I'm going to pull it in nice and tight and secure along this edge here. There we go, next one down. The other thing I'm going to do is work this in, pull it out to the side there and across, to the front because the front will be put in with the pleat going the other way. Secure it along the front edge here. Fold that in there and over the top with a 45-degree angle so it's not too bulky. I'll cut this piece off because I don't need it. Not quite into the corner, just leave a little bit extra fabric so it can be folded in if necessary. I'm going to pull this up and into place here. I'm just going to pull this in here so it's still straight and secure it to the top. Secure it here and then pull it into place so it looks nice and tidy. Across here I'm going to pull it up and secure it. Then on this corner I'm going to fold it in here. I'll secure it there and across so it looks neat from the front. I have the piping here. I'm going to hold it almost to the edge there. It's about 1/8 inside. I'm going to staple that down. Pull it to the corner. At the corner I'm going to fold it but staple it down across here so it holds everything down and into place. Bring that along the edge and secure it. I don't have very much board to attach it to. I've already done one and this is quite the balancing act. I need to push the piping against the edge and then to catch it down, the back tacking, on the edge of this piece of wood. I can understand why the previous people glued it on. And then check it, see if it can come out the other side. This took me ages yesterday to get done. As I say, I can understand why the other people glued it, but I persevere and I will get it done. Just make sure everything is lined up, comes over the edge slightly. That is determined to come out. I'll correct any that are in wrong. The tape is actually on the edge of the wood, so it comes over nearly 1/4 of an inch onto the other side. What will happen is as I pull this down towards the back, it will twist it into shape and I can push the piping up as I go. I'll have to rework that and I will rework the corners in a minute. So I'll get the other end in and then work out where the centre is. I'm going to work from the centre up, which is a bit of an irritating way of doing it, but that's the way you have to do it. All I've done here is kind of folded it as tightly as I can, put it across here. The piping I cut back and put along here. I don't actually have to have it that deep, and so I'm going to just cut down here. Bring this up and in, fold it over here, fold that in. Once I've worked out where I want it to go, I will put a staple in there just to hold it. Make sure it's back from the edge there. Flatten that seam out, flatten that and pull it into place and down. Obviously all of this can't go into the corner, so I'm going to take a line out, which I think is to there, and cut it all the way back. All I'm basically doing is working this corner in so it looks nice and neat all the way up, and then I will work this in with a 45-degree angle as I pull all of that into position. I will cut some more of this fabric out so it's nice and neat into the corner. It's just fiddly. Then I'll work my way around, get the other side done and then pull the front in. I'm going to have to rework this corner, I think, I'm not sure. But basically what I'm going to do is hammer that down. I'm going to put a staple in here to hold everything. Just means when you fold everything over, that's in place. And I'm going to cut across a little bit like that so that I can pull that out and down. I'm going to cut that down. And that should, with a little bit of help, roll into place and then into position, and I will secure it down here and across the top, and I'll finish off the other side. Actually, I need to cut that a little bit more because it doesn't want to fold where I want it to. Velvet is quite a bulky fabric, so sometimes you have to be a little bit more firm with it. I think that I just need to play with that a little bit more. Make sure that's in place and then around. Okay, that's where I want it. So I'll fold that in like that, and secure, and I'll start in the centre and move out either way to make sure that that goes in straight, but that should do that corner. So I'm putting the lining in. What I've done is I've put back tacking along this front piece, and I'm going to attach this little piece here, catch it down. I don't really need it that high, but I will for this application. There. Put a little bit of back tacking down, measure it up, put the back tacking in. It doesn't actually have to go all the way across, just most of the way across, it'll be fine. And secure that. Fold that under. It's a little bit close, it goes exactly where I want it up there. I'm going to secure it at the top here, a couple along here, and then I'm going to fold that into position and secure it along the top and along the side, and then I'll fold this under. It doesn't matter how you do them, I think that's going to be fine. I've just put back tacking along the front here, pulled it back and then tied it up the back and either side. I'm really quite pleased with that one. Thank you for joining me on this project. We have a steamer to take any ripples out, so they should look really good. The only thing I was really a little bit upset about was the fact that the piping didn't go in as well as I would have liked, but if somebody only leaves you a 1/4 of an inch, it's really hard to balance everything on. I prefer 3/8 of an inch or 1/2 an inch, to be really honest with you, and then you get a really nice look at the bottom with the piping and everything. So it does tend to look a little bit twisted, but I think once they're up they'll be fine. And I really didn't want to glue anything because that just gets so messy. I'm sure my friend's going to love the look of these. I'm not sure which room she's putting them in. I made sure there was some fabric left over so she can have some lumber pillows made up. They came out really well. Velvet is one of those fabrics that always looks good. If you want to hear more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be brilliant. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.